Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa. I am a product marketer here at Dovetail, and I'm excited to welcome you all to today's live demo of Dovetail for Researchers. Before we dive right in, want to make sure I acknowledge my wonderful co-host for today. You might recognize her if you're local here to San Francisco. You've seen her at Dovetail events. If you're active in our Slack community, you see her in there a lot running sessions. Our research advocate extraordinaire, Serena, is joining me as well. Serena, do you want to say hi?
Yeah, thanks for joining us today. I will be answering any questions in the chat, so feel free to drop any and all questions. Happy to also share resources and links as we go, but glad to have you all here today.
Awesome. All right, great. As Serena mentioned, she'll be in the chat, so feel free to drop questions in there as we go, and she'll be monitoring that. There's also the Q&A module as well, so feel free to drop questions in there. She'll be across that. We will have time for questions at the end of this session. It'll take me about 30 minutes to walk through the demo today. And so, keep asking those questions. If Serena doesn't get to it in real time, we'll definitely have time for discussion at the end. This session is being recorded, so we'll be sure to send that out to everyone after we wrap today. But without further ado, let's just dive right in. No matter what brought you here today to this session, I'm willing to bet that this particular group aren't really here to learn strategies about how to talk to customers. As researchers, you all know probably better than I do that in today's day and age, it's really easy to talk to your users, right? There's just a plethora of tools out there that help everyone in the organization collect mountains and mountains of qualitative data, quantitative data, any type of data you need about your customers, you can go get it fairly easily. And so instead, where I want to focus our thoughts today and what I'm going to really dive into is how Dovetail lets you leverage the power of AI to make it easier to listen to your customers, how to find all those kind of juicy nuggets or those insights that exist in those mountains of data so you can help influence better decision making at your organization. And so today I'm going to walk you through some key workflows that we see research teams at companies the likes of Atlassian, Okta, and Deloitte help their research teams achieve just that. So I'm going to focus on three key use cases today. First, I'll show you how Dovetail makes it really easy for you to centralize customer knowledge in a single kind of repository or what we call an insights hub. I'll then kind of go into the meat of the presentation, which is I'll show you all of our really powerful AI features that help you perform data analysis faster. And then finally, I'll show you how you can leverage Dovetail and AI to better align and empower all of your stakeholders and all of your teams with the power of customer insights. And so by achieving all three of these, we find that research teams aren't only drastically reducing the time it takes to analyze and share data, but really what they're ultimately doing is influencing better decision making across the org, whether that's what product to build next, what feature to prioritize for improvement, or whatever decisions your organizations are making. So without further ado, let's just dive in. Let's just get into Dovetail. Great. So first, I mentioned we'll talk about how Dovetail makes it drop dead easy to aggregate and organize all types of qualitative customer data in one platform. And this really comes from the fact that it can be, with all these different tools that teams are using, all of these customer insights, all of this data can be buried across different tools, different teams, different departments, and really from individual to individual can look very different. And so what this means is that no one has that complete picture of the customer, which can often lead to siloed understanding or differences in understanding of what customer needs or market trends might be. And so what Dovetail provides is a really kind of intuitive platform to kind of centralize all of that data in one place. What you see in front of you here is the homepage for a demo workspace that we have internally here at Dovetail for a fictional music streaming service called Zotify. And so what you see here is kind of that homepage or that login experience of the Zotify workspace. A workspace in Dovetail is the entire repository where all of the different types of customer data can live. This can be anything from a single note or single data type to a project or a collection of different types of data, or even an insight or a report of kind of some findings from data analysis. From the homepage, I can quickly kind of dive into finding the right data that I need via a customizable folder structure here. So you'll see different folders with projects and different data inside of them. Our customers depends on kind of their organization, but we see them organize folders based on team, based on product line, based on maybe a strategic initiative for the business. Safe to say this is completely customizable and can kind of meet the data organization needs of your team or your company. And so I'll click into this particular folder with some data, and you'll see a number of different projects kind of listed here inside the folder. And a project is exactly as it sounds, a research project, some moment in time where you've gone to maybe answer a certain question or collect a number of data points to come to some sort of finding or conclusion in research. And so I'll click into a couple just to show you some examples before I really dig in. But I clicked into this one, this industry reports. You'll see here, these are a number of kind of music streaming industry reports, PDFs, presentations, those sorts of data types. If I click into another one here, NPS feedback, all of these data points here might be responses from an NPS survey that we might have done in the past. And so hopefully you're getting a sense here that Dovetail really is kind of that single place where you can store any type of qualitative data, reports, presentations, NPS. In today's demo, I'm really going to go into customer calls as the primary example. So really any type of data is importable into Dovetail and instantly analyzable within the project. Now, once I get into a project, I have a couple of different structures to help me organize this information. First are the notes. Think of a note as kind of the core atomic unit of Dovetail. The container, the empty container where you can put different types of data to then kind of analyze in isolation. Highlights, which are kind of the key moments of within each particular note that you can then kind of pull out of the different data and synthesize across the entire project. And then tags, thematic tags that allow you to organize highlights and other data types so you can understand broader trends within the context of both the project and the larger workspace. And then finally, insights, which in Dovetail speak are essentially research reports that allow you to communicate findings from this research project out to stakeholders. We're going to get into all of those in a lot more detail in section 2. So put a pin in that for now. And let's talk about how we actually got all of these calls uploaded into Dovetail or any data type into Dovetail. If I wanted to say add some more data to this project, I can very easily click this import button. And now you'll see I have a really clear kind of drag and drop structure where I can pull things from my local machine into Dovetail. I can browse my local machine here. I can do a CSV upload, say for survey responses or NPS scores. But we also have rich integrations with Google Drive, OneDrive, and Zoom, which when you set up that integration, you can automatically look into your Zoom account and pull in a call that you recently completed with a customer and upload that into Dovetail. We also offer an integration with Zapier, so you can set up some custom workflows with other tools to continuously stream data into Dovetail. And we also recently introduced our read-write API, which allows you to connect to virtually any workflow if you have the development resources to do so. Connect any kind of workflow directly into Dovetail so you can continuously stream data into a project or into a folder, whatever makes sense for your research needs. So, and we're constantly working on this. We're really excited for some of the work that's in progress right now to integrate with even more tools that you're using to, again, continuously stream data into Dovetail so that you can build kind of this big repository or central source of truth of customer knowledge so that you can more easily analyze and synthesize everything together rather than having to struggle through multiple silos of information of different tooling across your organization. So stay tuned for some really exciting announcements there in the world of import integrations. Great. So that's just a quick note on how Dovetail makes it easy to centralize customer knowledge. Let's dig into the meat of today's session and talk about how once I have these 20 plus calls inside of Dovetail, how I can perform data analysis even faster so I can get to insights that I can share with my stakeholders. Because the fact of the matter is that analysis, synthesis, coding, and these sorts of qualitative data types is really tedious, can be quite manual, and can take a long time. And so the risk is that the time it takes you to analyze this data might not meet the pace of decision making inside of your organization. Product managers, designers are under tight deadlines. They need to meet certain launch dates. And if they don't have access to these insights at the time they need them, they're often left cherry picking data. They're relying on intuition, and we run the risk of developing suboptimal experiences for customers. And so what Dovetail does is provide a suite of AI-powered features, which we like to call our magic features, that help you accelerate your workflow and get you from raw data to insight faster than ever. So I've clicked into this call with Zotify user Freddie. You'll see you have the full video here in Dovetail, but then you also see that Dovetail has automatically transcribed this call for me. Dovetail provides support for 40 plus different languages and transcription, and we're adding to that and improving it consistently. I also have the ability to do some work within the transcript itself. I can actually use this like sort of similar to a Google Docs experience where I can type, maybe I want to add more context to this part of the transcript. I have the ability to do that. I can make edits. I can create highlights myself. So if I wanted to do some manual work to highlight or tag, I'm able to do that. We'll get into that in just a minute, a bit more. I also have the ability to redact data. So let's say that Freddie said some information that's that's sensitive, that's private, that is within our kind of organization's data privacy rules, and I need to quickly redact this and blur the video. With the click of a button, Dovetail allows me to redact audio and the transcript, and also blur that part of the video if I so choose. So I'll just show you what that looks like. Great, it's redacted, and just to show you, if I play the video, you'll see that it's the audio's cut and the video was blurred. So like I said, I can go in and highlight things manually. I can add tags, but really where the power of Dovetail comes in is being able to leverage the power of AI to kind of do some of that first pass for me so I can identify those themes more quickly. So I'm going to hit the button on Magic Summarize and Magic Highlights. And while that's working, maybe for just a second, let me go ahead and pause and talk a little bit more about tags themselves. So tags, another term we hear often in the research field is kind of coding research, is being able to apply kind of these thematic labels to different data types to be able to identify trends. And in Dovetail, you can do this of one of two ways. You can do this at the project level or more of a bottoms-up approach where you're creating tags based within the context of a particular project itself. So in this case, I have some project tags around sentiment analysis, around certain features that the users might be leveraging, or maybe the use case or how they're using Zotify. But then I also have the global tags, which are at the workspace level. So these tags can be put across any project inside of the Dovetail workspace. And now I'm able to elevate the view to look across the workspace to see where certain trends are emerging outside of the confines of a particular project. So in this case, we have things like demographic or purchasing habits, or maybe the mention of competitors. And what these numbers signify are the number of times that this tag has been used across the workspace. And so we see, wow, YouTube is coming up quite a bit. If I click into this tag, I now have access to all of the instances inside of my Dovetail workspace where YouTube was mentioned. I have a quick little sizzle reel. We call these highlight reels in Dovetail of 5 different customers talking about YouTube. I have more highlights kind of thrown down here. And so now very quickly, I'm able to understand what the trends are and get direct links to the evidence of where those trends are occurring to very quickly share with stakeholders. Show you more about how that comes to life later on in the demo, but suffice to say, tagging here can kind of, again, be that bottoms-up approach, kind of on a per project basis, or even kind of from the tops down, from a more like global tagging taxonomy. which is something that Serena is a particular expert at. If you've ever been to a tagging taxonomy workshop with her, you know that she knows a lot about tags. So let's check back in with Freddie and see, oh no, we'll let that one work again. And instead I'll show you Magic Summarize. So what Magic Summarize has done on this call is used AI to comb through the transcript and provide me with a summary or an overview of the call, complete with chapter breaks, with kind of sectioning out different sorts of points within the conversation. I can very quickly, let's say I want to quickly jump to the challenges and suggestions instead of having to scroll through the transcript and try and find it. I just click and I'm immediately taken down to that particular moment in the transcript. Just as with anything AI powered in Dovetail, I still have complete control of this asset and can make any edits to this summary. I can type in here and add more context if needed. One feature that I think is really cool and is pretty new is that you'll see I haven't assigned speaker names yet. So let's just do that really quickly. I can say this is my colleague Renee, and then this is obviously Freddie. And what you'll see on the summary on the right-hand side is that automatically updates using Freddie's name. So all I have to do is update the speakers once, and it's reflected not only in the transcript, but also in any summary that I've created of the transcript using AI. So kind of set it and forget it. And now you'll see some highlights have kind of popped up. This is the magic highlight has done its work. And so I'll just pop on over to the highlights tab. And you'll see that Dovetail's AI has suggested 11 different highlights or key moments within the call that our AI thinks might be interesting for further analysis. I can scroll through these. Note that some of these highlights now also have suggested tags. This is actually brand new, just released like yesterday. So this is very exciting. You'll see it's kind of started pulling out some tags to attach to the highlights. I can accept them, I can reject them, I can add more tags myself if I need to, either project tags or global tags. And I can edit the highlight itself. If I just click in the highlight, I'll go down to this one, scrolls down in the transcript, and I can edit the highlight myself. Say I want to kind of cut that down. Great. So again, just kind of that human in the loop. AI is taking that first pass at analysis and then letting you go in and kind of refine it based on your needs. So I'm going to go ahead and accept these all just for the purposes of the demo. And then one more thing I'm going to call out inside of this note. We mentioned tags as kind of a great kind of organizing structure to be able to code data. Another data organization piece that we offer inside of this view is our fields. And so fields, think of these as another way to kind of attach certain metadata types to your notes. So you can even further refine the segmentation and work with data and make it more malleable to do that kind of multi-level synthesis. So in this case, we've created fields for what type of user they are, what the interview method is. We've also got some workspace fields I could leverage here, similar kind of the structure to tags, that bottoms up, tops down sort of approach. So I can kind of make this data more indexable, more searchable, more workable when I go to the synthesis piece. We'll show how that looks in practice in just a second. Great. And so one more thing I want to show here before I pop out into synthesis is let's just say that I have a PM who's really kind of focused on how we differentiate with iTunes, for example. And so I see this particular highlight here and I think, oh, here's a mention of iTunes. This might be interesting for that PM. Let me go ahead and quickly just kind of share this little clip with them so they can get a quick insight. I can do this in one of two ways. I can comment on the highlight, and let's say Serena is my PM. I can quickly add her and then just say like, hey, check this out. She'll get a notification to come into Dovetail to look at the highlight, and she can look through the transcript if she so chooses. But we can do one better. And we can bring this highlight directly to Serena. So I can now share this highlight out by copying a link. And then I throw that into Slack, say I DM it to Serena, and that link will automatically unfurl into a consumable kind of video clip of this particular highlight. So now I'm bringing the voice of my customer directly to my stakeholders, even in these kind of one-off moments, without having to do a lot of heavy video editing or, kind of extra manual work to get those insights to them on the fly. So now with all of those features, let's imagine that I've kind of used AI and my own powers of analysis as a researcher to do the same for all of these calls. And now it's time to synthesize this data across all these different types and come up with some kind of conclusions, some sort of findings that I will ultimately put into a report, or as a Dovetail, we call them insights. So let's take a look at how we can view all of these highlights within the project. I'm going to show you there are a number of different ways you can visualize highlights in Dovetail. I'm going to focus on two in particular. I'm going to focus on a canvas view, and I'm going to focus on a table view. So let's start on the canvas. So I pop over here and you'll see this kind of blank, kind of digital whiteboard, almost a Miro-esque type of experience, where I can start adding highlights from my project onto the board to start doing some, affinity mapping, massaging of the data. I can do this in a granular way by adding filters, maybe based on tags, and you'll see all my tags here. Maybe I'll do it based on, different notes, or fields, if I'm really a power user of Dovetail. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to put them all on there. 275 highlights. Let's go. That's a lot of highlights, right? And I have control over these. I can move things around. I can add tags to these highlights. I can create kind of groupings to put them in. But again, 275 highlights is quite a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dovetail's AI take a first pass at this data in aggregate, at this synthesis. And so this is where our AI clustering, AI clustering is going to come into play. So I'm going to let that work and start to do that thematic grouping. But while that's working, let's jump over to the table to show you a different view. So this is great for folks who want that Excel style experience where each row is a highlight within Dovetail, all those key moments. And then the columns are kind of the tags, the associated insights, but then here's where you see all these fields start to come into play as well. And so let's say Serena taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, Alyssa, do you have any data that shows how our new users are thinking about YouTube these days?" "Sure, Serena, I can get that for you. Let me go ahead and throw a filter on this particular highlight view." So I would look for tag, and I just search for YouTube. Great. And then I need a filter for user. There you are. And then you'll see new user. Great. So now you can see I have very quickly 4 different highlights from this project that are new users talking about YouTube. All I have to do is select them. And now I have the option to play that reel. And then you'll see here, I have 4 different customers, new users talking about
I used to use
YouTube.
YouTube Music, but I didn't really like it. That's why.
I think like YouTube is always difficult because there's ads and often
Great. So all I have to do now is download that sizzle reel of new users talking about YouTube, and same thing, throw it in a Slack message, embed it in a Jira ticket, put it in product board. We have a number of great kind of share out integrations that bring this voice of the customer directly to stakeholders so they can consume and it helps impact the decisions that they make downstream. So let's go back and check in on our canvas. Great. AI has done the work for me, or at least kind of given me that first pass, right? We don't view this as like the end all be all. And as you'll see, there are going to be outliers in the data, which is totally natural. But what this does is give you the signposts, the directionality to kind of maybe dig in a little bit further where it makes sense. And so you'll see these suggested groupings. I want to dig into this listening habits one because I know this is a really big kind of point of contention or point of emphasis for my product stakeholders. And so I have a bunch of highlights in here. This is actually really great stuff. Again, I can do that same workflow I just showed you in the table view, where I have this highlight reel that I can quickly download and send out to stakeholders. But for this particular example, I want to start showing you what it looks like to add that to an insight. And so let's just say I want to create this insight just to start, like I'll just call this customer listening habits. Great. And again, insights, think of them as like reports, these kind of these artifacts that you can use to kind of influence decision making based on exactly what you're hearing out in market or from customers. This is similar to think like a Notion style experience where you're able to not only have the ability to bring in these rich video assets, but I also have the ability to type in more context with my findings. I can add dividers, tables. I can bring in other sorts of docs from other tools. One really powerful thing that Dovetail can do is also allow you to reference other projects or other insights outside of this project. So maybe I'll insert a reference here, and I might look for other insights that are associated with listening habits, for example. Great. Looks like there was one actually within this same project where I can go ahead and insert, if you want to dig into the data even more, here's some more evidence points to kind of bolster my argument. And of course, while this is all great and we want to present like fully formed insights and reports to our stakeholders, for all of our stakeholders who are resource constrained and time poor, and let's be honest, most of them are, let's let Dovetail's AI take a pass at summarizing this insight for me. So my stakeholders at the top level can just get the key takeaways from this particular insight. Once I feel like that's ready, I can publish it to the workspace, and then that makes it instantly shareable with all of my stakeholders. I can either invite them in by sending them an email, or I can copy the link to the insight and paste it in the tools where they work, throw it in Slack, throw it on a Notion page. Wherever my stakeholders want to consume this information, I can instantly bring it to them. So that's part 2 around performing data analysis faster. The last bit I want to focus on is how Dovetail can kind of go one step further and align and empower your teams with a shared view of the customer. Researchers are slammed, right? They're often under-resourced in organizations. They have ongoing projects, backlogs of requests. And oftentimes the dynamic that exists is that stakeholders have a perception that it's really difficult to go find or self-serve insights into customers. They don't feel empowered to go look for answers. And so they're often tapping research on the shoulder, asking for answers to questions that have already been answered. There's already been research. They're trying to repeat efforts. Or even worse, they're not asking questions at all and instead just going off of intuition and gut feel. And so what I want to show you to wrap up is how Dovetail, as your customer insights hub, anyone in your organization can also leverage the power of AI to get answers to burning customer questions fast. And how this comes to life is through our magic search capabilities. So if I'm a stakeholder logging into the Zotify workspace and say I have a question, what do our users think of onboarding? I can simply ask Dovetail that very broad question, and our semantic search capabilities are going to look across the workspace and identify any sort of data point in Dovetail, notes, highlights, tags, insights that might be relevant to this particular query. And not only will it put all of those data points in front of me, it will also present me with a succinct summary of all of these data points and what the main takeaways are within the workspace. So you'll see some bullet points with some findings from the search. You'll see these little citations. This is a great value add for Dovetail. We know AI can hallucinate. We know AI can make things up. This is an assurance that the data points that the summary is calling towards are actually connected to evidence inside of the workspace. So if I click on any of these citations, I'll be instantly taken to the note or the data point where it occurs, so I can kind of validate. I also have the ability to kind of massage this a little bit in terms of being able to say, I only want to look at the last quarter's worth of data, or I want to look based on certain contributors or teams. Or if I'm a real power user, I want to start leveraging those fields and that metadata to look at, say, certain demographics, for example. But for the purposes of this demo, let's say that this is great. This is exactly what I needed. I can now create that insight with the click of a button. And you'll see that not only does the summary get pulled over, but also so does any sort of video that was associated as evidence in that highlight reel format. All of the data points are included here. And then once I publish, I can then share it out with my organization. And then what this really does is creates that virtuous loop, because a lot of the stuff in this summary could have been research that was done maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, right? And in the past, while it might have just kind of gone into a black hole or started collecting dust on a shelf somewhere, now this information is being carried into this new insight, which now in and of itself is an artifact inside of Dovetail. And so this compounding return of research in the Insights Hub or in your repository can ensure that you're constantly building on your customer knowledge rather than having to start from scratch every time. So with that in mind, almost 30 minutes on the dot, that concludes the demo today of Dovetail for researchers. Hopefully this helped kind of show you the value of Dovetail, not just for research teams, but also how it can help increase your influence across the organization. And so thanks so much for listening. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Serena for Q&A.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great job, Alyssa. Feel free to drop in any questions you have here, either in the chat or the Q&A. I also shared a few resources as well if you want to dive deeper into our pricing and packaging page to get a sense of what features are included in different plans. You can sign up for a free plan today and play around with Dovetail. We also have some other really great resources here where if you want to take a look at our Dovetail community, you can join our Slack community, whether or not you're a customer, and get talking with other, people who are researchers, designers, product managers. People are chatting about not just Dovetail best practices, but also, things like how do you approach a taxonomy, or how are you approaching, driving personas across your organization. And we also have lots of virtual and in-person events that are announced there too. If you're new to getting started in Dovetail, I'd also recommend checking out Dovetail Academy. These are short kind of module learning lessons with videos and articles and homework to really break down each of those concepts and dive deeper into what Alyssa covered today. So you can jump in, import your first data, start your project, and get analyzing and creating insights and sharing it out very soon. So there's some more resources for you. If you don't have any other questions, you can also, always reach out to our team, whether it's through the sales form, which I'd also dropped in the chat earlier to chat with someone about different plans. You can chat with us through the community. We also have, people across our product, sales, go-to-market teams who chime in there as well. And we're always looking for feedback and input. So we're really lucky to work with some of the best customers, folks like yourselves, who are so great and so thoughtful in giving us feedback. So we're always looking, for folks who might want to participate in the community, beta testing with us, helping us keep building and designing the best tools for you to be able to keep talking to your customers. No other questions so far in the chat. Let us know if you have any of those burning questions. Otherwise, we do have, if you want to go to our Dovetail community page, we also do have events there too, including, other demos like today, other webinars. We have some also events and webinars hosted by some of our own Dovetail champions, one around scaling your Insights Hub and communicating business impact. And we've actually got an in-person event coming soon at our Dovetail office, which will be announced in the Dovetail Slack community as well. So stay tuned.
Yeah, maybe that's a good shout for anyone who's looking for information on all those events that Serena just mentioned. I'm at the Dovetail homepage right now. You just have to click on our community under resources, give a little scroll, and then you'll see all the great events that we have coming up. You'll see we have some other demos coming up in this month and next. We're going to do this demo again, but with a specific bent towards product managers and designers. Here are some of these champion-led events, both virtual, and we also have, I think, an in-person event coming up over in Atlanta soon, and also things happening at the San Francisco office here. So lots of ways to engage with us. yeah, so join the Slack community, even if you're not a customer, and stay in the loop of all the cool things we have coming up. Looks like we don't have any questions today, so I'll take that as we crushed it today, Serena.
We sure did. Good job, Alyssa.
No, but great. So thank you so much for today's session. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, thanks again. See you next time.
Take care, everyone.